Okay, so I'm just going through my 2019 CFE study, and I learned from a former teacher of mine, Steve Jantz from Calgary, that the best way to learn your material is by teaching it. So my goal here is to try and teach what I've learned so that I solidify it myself for the 2019 CFE. And if you see any flaws with what I'm doing, definitely let me know, and we can work together on this so that we all pass the CFE. So the first one I'm going to go over is contract allocations via IFRS. So one thing that you want to do when you start with these FR discussions is you want to state the issue. Next, you want to identify, does a contract exist? And you need to specifically state that it exists and why it exists using case facts. Next, you're going to use IFRS 15 in the handbook, and you're going to determine the performance obligations. So what that means is there's going to be two separate sections of the contract, or there could be, that are not able to be clearly recognized altogether. So the case that I'm looking at right now is called Solar Panel Solutions, which is available through CPA. And within this situation or scenario, there are two distinct segments of a contract. And one of them is the installation portion, which is built up of 3 or 4 different components. And the other is a service agreement. And it's all bundled up into one contract. So you need to identify that these two segments are separable and then conclude on how you're going to treat that. Next, you're going to state the total contract value. Now this seems very easy, but you do need to do it in order to get a mark within, or get up to a C within this analysis. So it's very important that you do that. The next is allocate the revenue, and I'm going to discuss that in a bit using Excel. And then you're going to do your journal entry and conclude and advise. And within each one of these steps, make sure you have a sufficient amount of discussion in order to get the full marks and get up to that C. Okay, so as you can see here, here's the steps again. Does the contract exist? Identify the performance obligations, determine the overall product price of the contract, allocate the percentage of completion to the segment of the contract, do your adjusting entry, then conclude and advise. So if we look at the allocation here, what you want to do is take your standalone prices and then you separate them into two segments. So this is the installation segment and this is the service contract segment. And then take the percentage of each over top of the total of standalone prices. And then you'll get your segment 1 and your segment 2 here. And then what you want to do is you allocate the contract total price. So for this case, it's 80 million. And then you allocate it based on the percentage of standalone. So then the next thing we do is you take the cost incurred to date and you divide them by the sum of the first segment costs. So you're going to get both of those contained within the case. And then what you get from there is a percentage of completion. So for this one, it's 28%. Then the next thing you want to do is take your total installation revenue, which comes up from here. It's this portion of the contract allocated, the total to segment 1. And you multiply that by the percentage of completion calculation here. So then this is going to get you this number here, which is your revenue to be recognized, the correct revenue to be recognized. And you want to subtract what they've already recognized, which is this 20 million. And you can see that they've overstated revenue by roughly $1 million. So what you have to do next is your adjusting entry, and what that would be is a debit to revenue to decrease it and a credit to the contract asset. So it's going to increase your asset, and that's sort of the amount yet to be billed. And then obviously what you want to do is conclude and advise on that.